Hey folks, welcome back to my channel. This is a new series. It's time to play Dominions, and this won't be the first series I've actually recorded for Dominions for either Explorminate or for my channel. I've done a few others, but I never ended up putting them up for various reasons. So I think it's time. I want to play this game, and I want to try recording it as well. And I always enjoy my games better when I record them. So that's the plan. This is I'd say this is it's my most played game on Steam, if we're not counting if I added up all the hours in the 3 Total War Warhammer games, because I like that as well. I don't play that on my channel because I'm not that good at it. I mean, you know, after 1,000 hours or whatever it is, I'm pretty good, but there are people who are better at that game who are going to play it in a more entertaining way. And I also, in order to enjoy Total War Warhammer, I have to save scum the shit out of it, and I don't think that's not really what I want to be doing. I'll tell you what it is, just quickly. The way the movement resolves in Total War is crap, and it's so janky. Yeah, and like, you know, you can get ambushed by armies, and there's certain things in it where you feel like you've moved a certain distance, and then turns out that you can't. So, you know, it's just really janky, and I just dislike it. So I find out I actually end up save scumming and rage quitting quite a lot on that game. It's just really annoying. It's still one of my favourite games. My other favourite game is Shadow Empire, and you know, you see me play that a lot. I probably know Shadow Empire best out of all three. But Dominions 5, I've got more hours in this technically than any other game on Steam, and I've got about 900 hours, and I've probably got at least 300 hours offline time as well, because it's one of those games that I'll put on a laptop and take if I go traveling or something, you know, and play it. I'm going to play single player, and I want to talk about this because this is basically going to be a series of you just watching Ben play single player Dominions. Now, I think Dominions has a reputation for having, you know, a substandard single player experience, and I think that's really, really unfair. I think this is one of the best single player games around. Now, I don't mean to insult anybody at all. I think part of the reason why single player's got a bad rep is basically because Dominions was designed as a multiplayer game. And it lacks some features that you would expect from a 4X in a single player or a 4X-like game. However, I think the multiplayer community are so used to playing it in multiplayer that going back to single player afterwards is really not fun for them. And I think if you're trying to play single player like you play multiplayer Dominions, you're just not playing it right, in my opinion. I don't mean to tell people how to play, but I think that let me use an analogy. When I learned that I really don't like Stellaris that much, or I didn't like Stellaris that much, and I think what it was that because I like war games and I like war focused games, Stellaris is really not a very good war focused game, in the same way that something like Master of Orion is. So I was kind of looking at Stellaris thinking, yeah, I kind of like the role playing stuff, but I don't really like, you know, just the bare bones of the game just are really not my thing. When I kind of got my head around the fact that Stellaris, even though it looks like a 4X, it's more of a sort of grand strategy game, and with a heavy role-playing aspect, I kind of started to enjoy it a lot more, and I now see more value in that game, actually. And I think it's the same with single-player Dominions. You will get to a point with Dominions where, if you're playing it single-player, where the AI will frustrate you eventually, because it's never going to be a human player, and I don't think with current technology it is possible to make an AI that could play Dominion, a game as complex as Dominions, you know, like a player. So yeah, I think that's probably, I don't know, I don't mean to put words into people's mouth. I'm guessing here that's the reason why, you know, it's kind of got a bit of a bad rep. It has got one glaring omission, and there's no diplomacy in it, and that's a real big problem for single player, because essentially what it means is once you're at war with someone, you're at war with them forever. Now, Dominion's kind of like it has a sort of law-based excuse for that. You're not really supposed to be working with other people. It's your god again. You know, you are the pretender, with a whole load of other pretenders to the throne of godhood. So why would you work with anyone? Obviously in multiplayer you have to. So anyway, I think this is an amazing single-player game, and you have to approach it just by playing it, basically. There are some reasons to play single player over multiplayer. I like multiplayer. I've played quite a lot of multiplayer. I'm not very good at it, I've got to be honest. I'm not that bad. I've never won a game, but I've never really... I kind of lose my focus halfway through a game, and that's one of the reasons why I've really slowed down. I don't really play it very much now, apart from with friends, because I just can't be bothered. It's too like the diplomacy, and you know, you really got to play a turn every day, and you've got to really think about it. And I don't know, I consider myself to be quite a hardcore game player, but that's just I lose interest in multiplayer Dominions eventually because I don't know what it is. I just can't be bothered with it. But it is a great game. It's undeniably amazing. Multiplayer Dominions, by the way, if you want to play a super complex strategy game where you're pitting your wits against people with galaxy brains, then that's the one. Because really, you've got to be smart to play this game, and people who aren't smart will get bored of it. You know, will either not get it, or they'll kind of get bored of it fast because they won't see its depth. So if you want to really, really test yourself, go and play multiplayer Dominions. Find a group, or go and jump on, Clockwork Hounds or Lucid Tactics Discord, or whoever else that's putting games on, or RCK 79, 78 or 79, whatever he's called. But some of these guys who are just putting on loads of games, go and play. This is not going to be like a role-playing thing. It's just going to be Ben playing single player. And one of the great things about playing single player with Dominions is that you get to use all the stuff that is kind of that people don't do in multiplayer. So all the tactics that are kind of considered suboptimal, and if you're playing against a reasonably good multiplayer opponent, will just they'll just be able to counter it very easily. You can enjoy that stuff in single player. So if you really want to kind of use scales troops, so use your baseline armies longer than you normally would, then you can. If you want to build your play around a specific spell that perhaps you wouldn't probably, it's not very gem efficient in multiplayer. In single player, on the low, on the sort of normal difficulty levels, that's going to be fine. You can do that, and you can still win the game by doing some really weird and interesting stuff. And Dominions leans into weird and interesting. There's the amount of possible combinations of things that you can do in this game is beyond count. So that's one of the reasons why I really, really rate Dominions 5 as a very, very good single player experience. But yeah, just don't expect it's not the same as multiplayer. So I don't want to ramble on too much longer. What I'm going to say is this though: if you're a multiplayer player and you've stumbled across this video thinking that you're going to learn, really, like Dominions 5 multiplayer meta, no, you're not. I will use certain things that I've learned in multiplayer probably. And I'll be using terminology that they use in multiplayer, like things like thugging and super combatants and fluffing and all this sort of stuff. And I'll explain it when you come across that stuff. But for the most part, this is just going to be a single player experience, okay? And without much further ado, I'm just going to get into it. So this is what I do. This is going to serve kind of as a tutorial, but there are better tutorials out there. Daz Tactic, Lucid Tactics, there's loads of others. So go and watch those guys if you want to, a very thorough tutorial. This is just going to be me playing. One of the things that I don't like about the multiplayer meta at the moment, is everybody plays on this thing called map nuke, and map nuke makes the same boring map every single time reliably, and that's why people use it, because it makes the same boring map that's balanced, relatively speaking. And that works if you're playing very competitive multiplayer games, because people don't, there's less chance of you complaining that you've got a bad start. Unfortunately, Dominions is one of those games, multiplayer, where if you start next to somebody who you're a bad match against early on in the game, you're probably going to lose anyway. So it's not. I just don't think that trying to balance Dominions is necessarily always the best idea. But in order for people to be able to have a fun experience when they're playing competitions and stuff, I understand. However, because of that problem, and I see that as a problem, people miss out on the random map generator in the base game, and the base game map generator is really good, especially for single player games. It generates kind of fun, interesting maps. You can download maps. There's loads of awesome maps that you can download that are prettier than the base game. But I'm using the random map generator, and I know that I'm going to get complaints about this. Oh no, it's ugly. I don't care. I don't care that it's ugly. It generates interesting, cool maps for single player, and it's always more fun than using the pre-built ones, in my opinion. Okay, the other thing is you probably want to create your pretender in advance. So I'm going to go through that. I think pretender design is one of those really really kind of arcane, obscure, opaque things for new players. And it certainly was what put me off the game initially. I just did not know what the hell I was doing. So after playing Conquest of Elysium 5 and seeing the two new monkey classes, it's kind of got me thinking about Kailassa and Lanka again, because these are the two monkey nations in the early age. So for people who don't know much about Dominions is set over 3 different eras, and you've got the early age, the middle age, and the late age. Early age has got more magic and less population. There's less technological advancement. The technology doesn't advance very far, I've got to be honest with you, but like this is kind of Bronze Age stuff in the early age. Middle age, it's a little bit further. There's more. You've got things like crossbows, and you know, troops have got more armor. Mages tend to have they're less powerful, but they have more paths generally speaking. And then the late age is just more so of that. So even more population. In the Middle Ages, blood magic's kind of died a death. There's only a few blood nations, whereas in late ages, it's come back with a vengeance. So yeah, and the nations, they change throughout the ages. Some of them get merged into one another, some of them disappear entirely, some of them are in all three ages and they just kind of evolve, and they're all different. And look, this is how many nations there are in the early age. I forget how many there are, but it's like 20 odd, 30, something like this. And then there's, you know, in the Middle Ages there's even more, I think, and then in the late ages there's slightly less. So the amount of content in this game is absolutely insane. And these are, like, you look at these, for example, this is late age Arcus Cephale, and this is how many units you get to play with, and this is not just what you get. Okay, here's all your commanders and here's all the base units. There's also summonable units, and they don't show you these here. There's just Dominions has just got a mind-boggling amount of content. It has most. I don't know any of the games that's got more content than Dominions. Maybe Dwarf Fortress is kind of on the same kind of level, I'd say. Okay, so thinking about the monkey nations, we've got Kailassa, who are like the good. You know, we can split them into two. We've got good monkeys or bad monkeys. So good monkeys are they're both based on Indian Hindu mythology essentially, and you know, it's kind of you know, kind of legends from things like the Bhagavad Gita and Ramayana. Is it Ramayana? I forget what they're called now, but anyway, the old Hindu texts, and there's loads of cool stuff in there. I mean, the Hindu mythology has just got so much in there, and as always, Illwinter have pillaged it and done something unique with it. So I'm wondering whether to play. These guys are interesting because they've got monkey troops, and monkeys they're really, really interesting. You've got stealthy troops. Then you've got these kind of little mukatas, which are sort of like just kind of barely more than animal intelligence creatures. They're easy to mass out. They're undisciplined, so they're hard to control. They're not very strong, and they run away basically before they fight. Like, they're really, really not very good. However, they have their uses. Then you've got like the Atavi, which are stealthy, human-sized, intelligent monkeys. These are part of a race called the Vanara, and because both Kailassa and Lanka have this caste system. They have a caste system basically that's kind of reminiscent of the Hindu caste system. At the top of the caste, you've got these white monkeys, the white ones, and you've got gurus and these yogis, and these are kind of like the spiritual leaders, the thinkers. This is in Kailassa. Then beneath them, you've got the Bandar, who are like big gorilla troops, and they're very, very strong. They're sort of more expensive to get out. Lanka also have the similar stuff, but they've also Lanka are a little bit different. Rather than having kind of, I don't know, I don't think Illwinter are very keen on the whole concepts of good and evil. They you know, there are certain nations that are kind of good and evil. For example, I don't know, like Hinnom. It's hard to look at a nation like Hinnom and think that they're anything but evil, basically. But you know, because they're like blood drinking, flesh eating giants, and it's pretty similar with Lanka. Lanka are flesh eating demon ogres with a subjugated ape populace, basically. I think I'm probably going to play Lanka. I know Lanka quite well. I've played them in multiplayer. Kailassa are very, very similar. They're just kind of like the good version of Lanka. But what I'm going to do is, I'm going to play Lanka, and I'm going to play. I'll put Kailassa in there, so we've got, you know, their sort of sacred enemies in there as well. So I'll read the blurb. On the dark and densely forested island of Lanka, Rakshasas, demon ogres from an earlier era, still linger. Gifted with tremendous strength, they once fought the Devatas of Kailassa, but since then the most powerful of the Rakshasas have left this world for the nether realms. The remaining Rakshasas have captured and enslaved the monkey people of Kailassa and made them serve as warriors, hunters, or food. The Rakshasas had no use for the peaceful white ones and Kalamurkas. Rakshasa half-breeds lead the monkey people of Lanka. So yeah, these Kalamukas are like half-breed monkeys, monkey ogre kind of crossbreeds, and they've replaced the yogis and the gurus of Kailassa. So these were the sort of like spiritual leaders of the caste system here. In Lanka, you've got these kind of half-breed monsters. Where are we? Since the enslavement of the apes, the ancient conflict between the Devatas of Kailassa and the Rakshasas of Lanka has been renewed. Rakshasas have an affinity for blood magic, and in times of strife, they are drawn to the blood of innocents. So yeah, these are kind of an evil nation. Think, you know, demon ogre apes like jumping out the darkness. Some of them have got like big lion head, like basically tigers. Some look like giant donkey-headed creatures. They're all like ugly, misshapen, horrible, and they're all flesh-eating gluttons. They're all demons, but they've got a gluttony trait, so they consume a lot of food. They don't need to eat, but they love to eat, just like the demons of Yomi as well. They're very similar. They've all got this gluttonous trait where they consume loads and loads of supplies. So you have to be a little bit careful about that. Particularly because Lanka likes to blood hunt, and blood hunting, as you'll see, kind of removes population. So, anyway, so the national features of Lanka, they're demon ogres. We've also got apes, and then we've got undead, because we do have death mages. We've got death magic in this nation, and they're quite strong. We can get, I think it's death 3. Yeah, we can get death 3. Very rarely we can get death 4 on these Rakshasi. The female demon ogres. So we can go into death. We can do death stuff. They're quite good with air, because the Rakshasha and some of the other summons that you get have got very strong air magic. So air and death together is nice, because you can do stuff like wailing winds and winds of death. Then they also do nature, and that's about it. They don't really do much of anything else. I think there might be some cross paths you can get into later. I forget now. So this looks like, you know, a relatively small lineup. It's not. This is just the tip of the iceberg with Lanka. They've got a load of summonable units, and most of them you summon with blood magic as well. Some of them are nature, but most of it you use blood sacrifices, and you murder innocent virgins and spill their blood, and then use them to summon demons out of the nether realms, basically. That's what they call them. I forget what they're called. What the myth, you know, the mythological name of it would be. But so I'll have a quick look at the units. This is not going to be a nation overview that would be suitable for multiplayer. Okay, so I'm just going to go over and just talk about what we've got. We've got Markata, who are very, very cheap to recruit. You can just get loads and loads of these. You can spam them out. They're animals like most of the monkey troops, which is an important tag you'll see later on. They've got a club, and they throw sticks and stones. They're not very strong. They don't do much damage, but they have got high defense, and they're size 1, so you can throw these guys at enemies, and they will defend for quite a while, providing their morale stays up, which probably doesn't, because I've only got morale 7. You can give them bows, which make them marginally more useful, especially when they've got spells on them. We've got Atavi, which are a kind of tribal version of the Vanara, and these guys are stealthy, so you can use these to raid. For stealthy raiders. They've got a dagger, short bow, no armor to speak of. They're just basically human style troops. We've got a melee version which can also throw sticks and stones. They've got a mace. The mace kind of hits reasonably hard. It's not very hard, but it's not bad. They've got they've got quite good defense as well for human style troops, these, so they're not actually that bad, but they are animals. Then we've got the light Bandar archer, which is one of these guerrilla type troops. They've got no protection, so they don't trade very well if you're getting shot at yourself. But their longbow's they're really powerful, and you throw some strength buffs like Strength of Giants and Wind Guide and stuff like this on them, and they become really, really good. So Wind Guide's something we can do, but I think the flaming arrows is kind of hard to get on these. But they've got really high strength. They'll die quite quickly in combat, but they will do a lot of damage first. Then we've got the Bandar Warrior, which is an armoured version of a melee Bandar. Good strength, kind of, average attack and defense. So they kind of take hits, and they're size 3, so you only get 2 of them to a square, but they're pretty good. They hit pretty hard. I like using these. Okay, I'm just going to turn the this music down, just bear with me, because it's probably a little bit too loud. Sorry about that, folks. I've got some music on in the background that won't get me kicked off YouTube. It's the music of Adrian von Ziegler. If I remember, I'll put a link to his music up in the description. He actually allows people to use it for YouTube videos. Okay, the next we get into the demons, and these are recruitable demons. So these are the Rakshasa that you can actually recruit. We've got the Asara. This is like a one-eyed, elephantine-eared, short-legged, long ape-like arms. It's got a spear and it throws javelins. It doesn't have any protection, but these things are sacred, so you can give them a buff. They're really, really strong. Strength 20 with the javelin is really good, by the way. You'll peg things to trees with these guys, and so they're an interesting choice that you can pick. We've got the Anasara, which got a really high combat speed. They work like cavalry, basically. Again, they don't have much protection. They're really strong. Better than average combat stats. So 10 is kind of average, you know, for human troops. These guys are really, really big and strong. They've got lots of hit points, and you can give them a bless. These guys don't have glutton, though, I don't think. Yeah, they don't eat flesh. So these are one of the few troops that you can use if you don't have, you know, if you're fighting into areas that have much supply. Kalamuka warriors are a crossbreed between the Bandar guerrilla type troops and the Rakshasa ogres. So you can read all the unit descriptions here. You can pause the game if you want. Yeah, anyway, good strength. These guys are good, basically. These are a sacred unit. They don't have the... well, this is one thing about the things in Lanka, the demon troops. Most of them are... They don't like fire. So I think the summonable ones aren't so bad. Yeah, the summonable ones don't have the fire penalty, but... Yeah, so for example, the Rakshasi here and the Raksharaja, there's a lore reason why they don't like fire. Basically, these guys are kind of like enemies of the sun. That's the idea. The Rakshasa are there to destroy the sun. They want to kill they want to blot out all light. So they've got dark vision. They like being in the dark. They've got perfect dark vision. And yeah, fire kind of recognizes that they're enemies of the light, so it damages them more. Okay, so yeah, these guys are like a sort of tanky troop. They're sacred. They've got a shield. They've actually got a hat, which is kind of rare for the monkey troops. So they don't get killed by arrows so much. Finally, for the troops, we've got Palankasha. These are a tiger-headed, relatively fast, really strong combat unit. Basically, they've got a falchion, and yeah, they've got a shield. They don't have a hat, but they've got decent hit points. I like to recruit these. These are a good unit. Okay. I'm gonna go through the commanders quick because I don't want this to be a really long nation guide. I'm not really qualified to do nation guides. We've got a Makata scout. So this guy is just your standard scout. He's stealthy. He's actually a bit more stealthy than normal scouts, I think. Forget if 40 or 60 is the standard. He's good. He's a decent scout. He's really cheap as well. We've got an Atavi chieftains. These guys are notable because they're stealthy, so you can lead stealthy raiding groups of the other two Atavi types of troops. The Bandar commander is decent. They've got leadership 80, so they can actually put things into formation. He can do some thugging stuff at a pinch. If you don't know what that means, I'll explain it later. You can load him up with magic gear if you want, and then you can send him out solo, and he has a less than average chance of dying because he's got quite a lot of hit points. It's not a very good thug, but you can use it. You've got the Bandar Raja, who is basically a king monkey. These guys are like the kings of the various tribes of the monkey people of the Bandar. He's got a really high leadership rating, so he gives his troops a morale bonus. And yeah, he's pretty good. He's just a pretty good troop overall. I think these are quite good. One thing that's notable about all of the troops in Lanka is they've got low magic resistance, at least the non-Rakshasa versions. Next, we have the Raktapata. I think these are like Bandar. Yeah, these are Bandar troops, but they're Bandar commanders, but they've got magic. These are actually really good. These are really good. People like these in multiplayer as well. They're really cheap, and they've got Blood Magic 1. And as you'll see later on, that means we can put them into Blood Sabbaths, and they're just useful. These guys who are doing most of your blood hunting. They're also reanimated priests. I think these are the blood hunters. Might be the Kalamuka. I forget now which ones are the better ones. Anyway. Next we've got the Yogini. This is like a female Bandar sorceress. These ones have death magic and nature magic, so these ones reliably get decent nature. Death ones not that useful. Like they're good for sight searching, and The Death one kind of loses its functionality quite early on, I'd say. They do have some use. Kalamoka is a half-breed version of the Rakshasha. They're more expensive. They're just stronger because they've got the the Rakshasa blood in them. They're also, these ones are sacred. I forget if the Rakshasha, yeah, the Rakshasha are sacred as well. But these are a level 2 priest, so they're a better priest basically. They've got the gluttony trait. I don't think they've got the demon trait, which is nice. So one of the things about Lanka is they would be, I think even in multiplayer, they would be considered to be one of the best nations in the early age. Apart from they've got 2 traits. One of them is that all these guys have got the animal trait. So there are spells that make it quite easy to control and capture animal troops. And the other thing is that these ones are demons. And there's a spell that comes out towards the end of the game called Demonic Cleansing. And when that comes out, these guys are really not so good. So yeah, they kind of get hard countered in the very late game in multiplayer. And they kind of got a bit of a slow start, I'd say. Other than that, though, they're really strong. You've got a lot of stuff you can... I think as Lucid Tactics would probably say, they've got a lot of cool stuff they can do. And, that's very true. Rakshasha are really, really interesting. These are an awesome unit. This is a female demon ogre. They can shapeshift into a sort of more sexy, appealing form that they can use to seduce enemy commanders and steal them. So they can turn into this kind of like hot version of a... I don't know. They just look like some kind of like Indian version of a belly dancer, basically. And they're good seducers. They're strong. They're really, really good. There's some items that you can put on them that make them really, really powerful in assassinations. So if they fail to seduce enemy units, you can actually use them to assassinate as well. These got air magic, and they get random paths. So they can be good at air. They can be good at death magic, nature, or blood. You just get a bit of a random mix of them. These are a really good unit. You'll see me summoning them quite a lot. And finally, you get the Rakshasha, he's a Rakshasa king, ruler of the Lankan ogres. This guy is decent air mage. He's got blood magic. He's got blood magic as well. He's got the usual Lanka demon stuff. That's susceptible to fire. He's a demon. But yeah, he's a glutton as well. Really, really high gluttony. He eats tons and tons of supplies. So yeah, you got to be a bit careful. You don't want too many of the. Well, you want as many of them as you can get because they're really good units. They're just expensive. Okay, so that's kind of like the brief nation overview. A few other things that that's important. Yeah, they can reanimate dead, so they've got an undead play. They're a blood nation. They like heat scale too, so they prefer hot climates. But they don't suffer too badly in non-heat. More importantly, the demon troops like turmoil. I'll show you what that means when we make the pretender. Just bear with me a sec. I just got to shuffle things around. Okay, so I don't want this to go on for too long. What I'm going to do is I'm going to probably make the pretender and then end the first episode before we actually start. So let's go into this. So here's a pretender creation screen, and yeah, if you are new to Dominions, this can look a little bit intimidating because there's a lot of stuff that goes into it. In a nutshell, you've got a certain amount of design points which you can spend on magic paths and bless effects, basically. Or you spend them on magic paths, and the magic paths give you access to the bless effects. You also pay for the chassis, and the chassis is the kind of type of god that you've got. So I'm in multiplayer, like everyone just does stuff like this. They just pick these things and then they kind of go like this, right? Not always, but generally speaking, like if people who want to win multiplayer games they do rainbow mages, so they've got more path diversity, and they kind of just stuff like that, and then they tend to tank their scales, and I don't know, like multiplayer. Let's not think about multiplayer, okay? Like this is a single player game. I want it to be more thematic and kind of fun, lore based, rather than trying to min-max the games, trying to min-max the game mechanics like you get in multiplayer. That's cool and everything, but you get 4 different types of physical forms, and each comes associated with a certain Dominion strength. Don't worry about that for now. You've got immobile stuff at the top, and these things can't move. They're usually things like statues and possessed fountains and all sorts of weird stuff like that. They are useful. They're another one that gets played a lot in multiplayer. Then you get Dominion 3. These are the Titans, so they're usually giants, and they've got like human-like forms often, not always. For example, there's a demi-leash here, which is just a pile of skulls, a skull and bones, basically. But like for the most part, they tend to be like these kind of humans, and they're different for every nation. Lanka doesn't get a huge choice, but it gets, you know, it gets some interesting ones. It gets like the sort of Hindu themed stuff, and we get also some of the sort of more Chinese sort of oriented things as well, Chinese and Japanese. But I think it would be thematic and fun to go with the Devi of Darkness. So this one is clearly based off, I think, I want to say Kali, it might be Durga, one of the you know, Hindu, like this one Destroyer of Worlds is obviously based on Shiva, and this guy is probably based on Vishnu because he's blue. I'm just going from my very rudimentary knowledge of Hindu mythology. I did spend some time traveling in India looking at all that stuff, and it's really cool. But I think this one's supposed to be Durga, because or Kali. Basically, it's a demon slayer, which is amusing because we are a demon nation. However, I think she'll be kind of thematic and terrifying. You don't always see these kind of pretender titans, Titan pretenders in multiplayer so much, I don't think. I think some of the, you know, the better players like to use them because, you know, just because they get bored of just these things being used all the time. So I think I'm going to pick Kali. I'm going to pick the Devi of Darkness, but there's another class as well. These are like what people call the Awake Expanders. So if you've got a nation that's struggled to kind of to expand its territory, these are the ones that are, I mean, not always. For example, this is a Rakshasha. This is a Rakshasa queen. This would be another one that might be fun and thematic to play because this one is specific to Lanka. The problem is with her, she's quite a lot of points, and her magic paths are a little bit expensive. I mean, the magic paths are quite expensive for the Devi of Darkness as well. We're not really trying to min-max the game mechanics. One of the reasons why I want to take this is because she's got Earth Magic, and I think Earth Magic will plug a bit of a gap that Lanka have. Anyway, yeah, so you get things like these giant bulls, huge two-headed snakes. There's all sorts of weird and wonderful stuff. Look at this. The Kamadhenu. This one is a spirit of plenty drawn forth with the churning of the ocean of milk. So it's like some kind of Lakshmi type thing, I think. I think it's probably kind of vaguely based on Lakshmi. But yeah, this is, yeah, you get some really weird stuff. And yeah, you can play these games. You can play this game in all sorts of weird ways, and single player really allows you to kind of lean into these weird things. So I'm going to go with the Devi of Darkness. I'll read this. The Devi of Darkness is a huge four-armed divinity with a horrible appearance. She was once given power to battle demons by a previous Pantocrator, but her destructive fury made him banish her eventually to save the world from her rage. With the disappearance of the Pantocrator, the raging Devi has broke free and will subjugate and destroy all demons, likely the world as well. The Devi of Darkness is a slayer of demons, and she holds a demon head in her hand, and a bowl into which blood from the head constantly pours. Demon blood also pours from her open mouth. The Devi wields a sword which thirsts for demon blood and a trident that forces demons to halt. There's some incredibly interesting symbolism in all of this. Try not to see this stuff literally. Like if you're really interested, looking at old mythology, try to see things in symbolic form as to what these things mean, and you can really read a lot into these symbols. It's very, very interesting stuff. I love Illwinter. They are scholars and gentlemen and artists, and they've made some really, really cool, interesting stuff with this game. Anyway, she's interesting. She's got a decent amount of hit points. She's strong, decent combat stats. Importantly, she's got 4 arms, which means she gets 1 less miscellaneous slot, but she gets head, armor, legs, 1 miscellaneous, and then she gets 2 arms and 2 shields. So you can really kit this thing out with magic items in the late game and make it terrifying. She's got ambidextrous, so she can just wield lots of stuff. She can have like 4 weapons, no sweat. She starts out with Earth Magic 1 and Blood Magic level 2, Research 11, and she causes fear, which is helpful. Because fear basically means that if she's surrounded, they'll be taking fear check penalties and then they'll run off more often than not. She's got 2 weapons to start the game with. The apotropaic sword, and I think, is this a single-handed weapon? I forget now. I think it would say 2-handed. So yeah, she's got this, because she's size 6, even though it says it's length 2. She's going to be getting an extra length on it, so they can repel with this. She's also got a trident as well, and both of these things have got Halt Demon, and so the apotropaic sword will do lots of damage versus demons, and the apotropaic trident basically paralyzes demons. Basically, it's paralyzing, armor negating, paralyzing damage. So if you are unfortunate enough to come up against other demons, I don't know if that also works on magic. I think it must just be demons, actually. I don't think it works on magic creatures. So she's basically custom built to kill things like Lanka, and I'd also say Yomi and anyone else who can summon demons. But she's kind of interesting and thematic, you know, for Lanka itself, I think. So I'm going to pick her. You get a choice of whether to trade how quickly she comes into the game for some extra points. I'll have a think about that. So what I want to do is, usually when you're picking a pretender, you want a rough idea of what it is that you want to be doing, what kind of spells you want to be casting. With single player, it really doesn't matter quite so much. I think what I'd rather do is have nice scales in this game. I think I'll make her dormant so I get a few more points. I don't need her at the start. I'm actually okay at expanding with the monkey troops, so I think I'm going to be okay there. Okay, so we to open up a new path costs 60 points. So, but it doesn't cost so many points to increase the path you already have. I think at Earth Magic 4, we can then boost ourselves up to 6, and I think at 6. Just remind myself, I forget which, I think it's S. Let's just look at Earth Magic. Yeah, I mean, Earth Magic 5 for killing King of Elemental Earth. So, don't get too freaked out by the amount of spells. There are thousands in this game. There are so many spells. Hundreds and hundreds, maybe there might be 1,000. I don't know how many there is now. There's loads anyway. But what we're looking for is just to see the maximum level of stuff. So, yeah, I think Earth 5 is probably about as far as we need to go. And I think with Earth Magic 4... yeah, it looks like Earth 5. So if we give her Earth 4, then we'll be able to give her Earth Boots, which bring her up to 5. And then something like a Staff of Elemental Mastery. I think there's another Earth boosting... is it a Bloodstone? She can probably make Bloodstone too, because I think that requires Blood and Earth Magic. So it might be worth putting a couple of points into Blood too. Now this is one that you can easily raise, especially in single player. A lot of if you've watched any nation guides for multiplayer, they don't, you know, the basic principles apply, but you don't have to worry so much about certain things. Like, for example, generally speaking, it's very gem expensive to increase the level of your magic in game, but in single player that's not going to be so much of an issue, I don't think. Anyway, so yeah, I think we'll go with this. I also should give her another path. Now, we don't get any fire magic as Lanka, and we don't get any astral. I think, and we don't get any water. So, I mean, ideally, we'd like to, you know, something like this would be nice. That's expensive though, but this would give us a nice bless. So we've got kind of like a decent amount of bless. The alternative is we could just do that. That also, once you've got 3 in every path, in either Elemental, which is these 4, or Sorcery, these 4, then you kind of, it allows you to choose the bless effects. And Lanka like a bless because they've got Sacred Troops that actually do really well with them. You don't need them because they've got the Monkey Troops are alright. This is kind of like, you know, you don't need to do this. It's probably cheaper to do something like that. Yeah, we don't need air magic on her. I mean, air magic's nice actually because you can use Cloud Trapeze, but just gotta think about how we're going to do this. So I think I don't like trashing my scales in Dominions. I think I want more Dominion though, and we definitely want Turmoil. So Turmoil basically reduces our recruitment points, which is unfortunate. However, it does make our demons stronger. I don't know if I'm really willing to... I mean, the more into Turmoil you go... Let me just show you what I'm talking about. I don't know if she's also Chaos Power, no. So if we look at the Lancashire as an example, he's got Chaos Power 1. That means... that means that he's going to get more... I think it's Strength and some of these skills like Attack Skill. So I think it increases Strength, Attack Skill, Defense Skill... by 1 for every level of Turmoil you're in. And also, if you've got Unrest in the province, it counts as more Turmoil. So basically, the more kind of the more deranged the world is going, the more powerful the demons get, which kind of makes sense. It's nice. So you I mean you kind of want to go into Turmoil 3. This is nice as well because you're getting a penalty to things like income and recruitment points. It also it gives you more design points, so we can actually get more. We can go something like magic scales or growth. In multiplayer, everyone just always puts this up high. You don't need to do that in single player. Like we could make it really, really hot, which is going to affect. Yeah, we're going to lose income basically. However, it gives us more points. Now, productivity. I forget whether we want that on Lanka or not. Yeah, they do. So productivity determines how many resources you get. So yeah, things like these kind of want resources, like Bandar troops resources, but the rest of them not really. I don't think you really need to go into productivity. They will like magic scales though. These guys have got 7. Now with magic 3 that'll be 10, and you're paying what, 32 up to. That's really good. So Yogini are also good at. Imagine they're more expensive. Yeah, they're 120. Sacred troops have a big cost reduction to how much they cost you every turn. Yeah, you're not going to use those for research. So I think it's the Raktapata. The Kalamoka might work as well. There'll be 10, 11, 12. Yeah, 12 for that. Yeah, you're best off using these guys. I think if you're going into magic scales. So I'll probably do something like that. Growth is nice because it gives you more. It kind of offsets the penalty, and you actually get some natural growth. I don't think the game's going to go on that long for growth to be a big thing, to be honest. People say it's a bit of a no-brainer in multiplayer. I don't know about that. Mind you, I'm not good at multiplayer, so I shouldn't really be talking. Okay, so yeah, I like a little bit of luck because I think luck gives you more events. And if we start, I mean, I really like luck actually. I'm kind of tempted. What could we do here with this build? Bless. I'm just trying to think about the build. I don't want to spend too long on this because I know it's not very exciting. But you might get some insight into my thought process. So anybody who's not really played this before might find this interesting. If you're struggling to get into dominions, these are all abilities. These bless effects, the so-called bless effects, these are added to any of your sacred units. And what happens is you have a priest bless them as you're in combat, and when they're blessed, they get extra bonuses depending on what the bless effects are. And the bless effects are dependent on the magic paths you've got, and some of them are great. I think with Lanka, you kind of want to get fire resistance, but this is not a multiplayer game, and I really, like normally people just take all the resistances, and I'm not going to do that. I think it's nice to have, because the Lankan troops don't like fire, so it makes sense, especially if you're going up against a fire nation, to have some kind of fire resistance. That said, I don't think it's that thematic, so I think I'd rather take attack skill. So I'm going to get some attack skill, and I'll get superior morale. I'm going to leave the weakness with fire in there, I think, because I think it's going to make the game a bit more interesting. Water. Now, water walking enables them to cross rivers. Minor cold resistance gives them cold resistance, obviously. Defense skill's cool. I might take defense skill and minor cold resistance. So they've got some resistances. And defense skill gives them extra defense, so they're just harder to hit. That's always nice when you've got big naked demon ogres. Unbreakable stops them from getting battle afflictions. That's good. Fire and shock resistance is obviously really, really good. Now, fire and shock resistance is handy. The reason being is because you can then start using some of the air magic that you're using, that you've got. So that might actually be worth going for instead. We're going to have to take some points off for something else though. Maybe we're going to Turmoil 3. But fire and shock resistance would be pretty cool. The other thing that we could get, so basically this would cover our fire, problems. Also, I guess we could start playing with the air magic as well. And Lanka like air magic. They like things like lightning stuff. So yeah, maybe I'll do that. What else have we got? We've also got to choose blood. So blood surge. If you kill something, you get stronger. Basically, you get stronger, more attack, more defense, more reinvigoration. Blood bond's nice because it transfers half of all incoming damage to other friendly troops. If you've got, I don't know if these guys got berserk. Are they berserkers? No, they're not. Yeah, so that one stacks nicely with berserk. Like if we were to get berserk, I think you need 6. Is it 5? So you'd need nature 5. You could take berserker and then blood bond, and that's like really, really strong. Because what happens is when one of your sacred troops gets hit, they will take damage, but it will share the damage out with all the guys around it, and then they'll all go berserk all at once. And berserk makes them really, 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 really dangerous. Killy is the terminology. I mean, we could do this, right? If we went into imprisoned, we could probably take all this lovely stuff that we've got. But I just don't think that by the time that they come out, yeah, we don't look as Lanka. We don't necessarily need to have a big bless. And it might be cool to have it come out later in the game, you know. It might be something fun to look forward to. I'm just trying to think about how to make this game kind of, you know. Oh, if we go down to Dominion 5, we could probably go more into luck. And I do like luck. I do like magic scales as well, though. Anyway, so you kind of get an idea. The customs pre-spells you get are based around whatever your highest and earliest. I think I'm not sure quite how it determines this. I think it's the highest path basically. So yeah, if Earth is highest, then you'll get a pull from the Graven Word of Stone. I'm still wondering about firing shot resistance, whether I actually want that, or whether I should just try and keep the game a bit more thematic to how Lanka kind of should be in the lore. What we could take instead would be something like Strength of the Earth, because that makes them stronger. I'll go with the firing shot resistance. I'd like to play with air magic, I think, and having that, being able to cast something like Wrathful Skies and then not kill all my own troops will be fun. Yeah, maybe we do this. Okay, maybe we go like this. So this is not a scales build by any stretch. You know, if you were going in scales, you'd probably take less turmoil, and you'd take productivity. But this should be okay. We're not going to be able to get many troops out at the start of the game. You'd probably even go to sloth a little bit. Mind you, that's a big decrease on resources. I think I'll just leave it. We are going to be using lots of demons. I'd like to use some of the monkey troops as well. Okay, that's it. The next thing you do, generally speaking, is put a password if it's multiplayer. Don't worry about that here. I'm not expecting anyone to hack into my account. And just click on OK. I'm going to give her a name. Yeah, so her name is Kali by default. I think I'm going to leave that. I'll just leave it. And there we go. So we've created a pretender god. You can now see this in pretender creation. So here's Kali, look. And yeah, you'll see some of these stupid names that I've got. It's kind of customary to play Dominions multiplayer with silly names. Okay, I'm going to create a new world. And then I'm going to end the episode. So I'm going to go to a random map. Now, I've spent quite a long time trying to figure out a really nice setting for playing multiplayer on that's kind of fun and also doesn't take too long, basically, but doesn't end too soon as well. And I think I found it. So I'm going to have less water provinces, I think. I'm going to leave everything else as it is. Let's call it... let's call it Battle Mode LP. Select the early ages. And we're going to select Lanka as our... I think it's Lanka, by the way, not Lanka. If you check the pronunciation, at least on Wikipedia it says Lanka. So we want 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, I think 8 or 9 players is probably about right. I'm going to put 9. Yeah, I'll put 9. Now, I'm actually going to pick some of the players. And I'm going to... I think for this game, I'm going to leave the AI on... It's a toss-up between difficult and normal. Difficult will be quite difficult, I'd say. I'm going to have to play quite well. And I might lose, okay? But I'm sure none of you mind seeing me lose. I'm not that arrogant that I can't lose a game. So I might put it on difficult. Alternatively, I could pick a few to be on difficult. Like, I might choose Kailassa, put them on difficult, and then I might have these guys on normal. Difficult basically gets a boost. They'll get a boost to their production, and I'm not quite sure exactly what it is. I think it's Dominion Strength. I forget now exactly what it changes, but it'll be gold production, that kind of thing. Who else do we want in the game? I could leave the rest completely random. I think I'd like one water nation to fight against. Who would be fun to fight? Pelagia kind of can't get out the water very easily. Oceania are kind of like Pangaea but underwater. So like a nature focused faction. I think probably Atlantis, because Atlantis will actually come onto the land and be annoying. So let's have those. You know what? I'm tempted to have 2 underwater nations even. Let's do this again. I'm just going to go back to the random map. I'm actually going to put normal amount of water. We'll have 15 provinces per nation. Let's choose Lanka again. And then hit N key. So 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We'll put Kailassa on as a difficult AI. The AI type, by the way, you can be standard, defensive, or aggressive. I'm going to leave it on random. I might put Kailassa on. I think defensive would be thematically good for them because they seem like they want to be like a good karma nation essentially. However, they are supposed to be trying to win, so I don't know. I might just leave them on standard. Yeah, let's get Atlantis and let's get Relay. Well, have Atlantis and Relay as underwater nations, and then I might just handpick a few. Who might be fun to fight against as Lanka? I think Abyssia would be a real challenge, so let's get them because they're fire. They're very, very fire focused. It might be a little bit too. Mind you, we've got fire and shock resistance but only once our god comes out. So we've got to pray basically that we are not close to Abyssia at the start of the game. What else are we going to have? Let's have a human nation. Let's have Ermor, which are basically a Roman faction. Let's have a giant nation as well. Mikone are quite fierce when played by the AI, I've found. I like them though, they're great. The other giant nations are Fomoria, who are very, very strong. We've got Hinnom. Yeah, Hinnom and another blood nation. I think I won't do that. I think Niflheim are also blood. Maybe we go with Fomoria. Mind you, Fomoria are quite similar to me. Kind of. I know. Let's get Fomoria. And then let's get Vanheim. No, sorry. Is it Turnanog? Yeah, Turnanog, which are an elf nation. I'm kind of setting myself up for an annoying game here because I've actually got two water nations. We've got elves as well, and they also got Fomoria, who kind of they've also got elvish kind of units. I just kind of want to make it sort of interesting. Okay, what else can we have? We could have Yomi. Yeah, or maybe another human nation. Kailassa and monkeys, they're kind of like humanish. Yomi could be fun because they might be another sort of antagonist. We've got as well. Okay, Beritos. No, I'm going to put in. Alright, guys. I think I'm done there. That looks like a nice little spread of stuff. I'm going to leave the rest of them on random. And yeah, we'll see how we go. Having two water nations, we can do stuff underwater, by the way. I think we don't have. It's hard for Lanka to get underwater, but there is stuff that we can do in the end game, so that we can kind of get down there and fight with these guys if we need to. So yeah, that's gonna be interesting, and it'll get to show off some of this gameplay too. Okay, so now we pick our pretender, and we're just gonna go to load pretender god, and we'll put Kali in there, and I'm going to have random events. Yeah, I'm going to... Oh, hang on. Do I want lots of events? Yeah, we'll keep the random events being common. I'm not going to turn on the story events. I've never played with these, actually. Yeah, I don't know. That might be cool for, you know, for a single player game, but I might leave them off because I'm not ready for them. So they might knock me out. I'm going to put Hall of Fame entries up to 15, but maybe even 20 with how many players we've got? 9. Now let's have 15. Global enchantment slots I'm going to put up to 7. Sounds about right for 9. Yeah, I'll put it up to 7. And yeah, everything else I'm going to pretty much leave. Now, here's another thing that in multiplayer, basically, everyone always uses the Thrones of Victory. It's kind of the most fun way to play, I think. Now, you don't have to do that in single player. You can just kind of like, there's a research point victory if you want, or you can, you know, get a certain amount of provinces. I think Dominion's another one. So basically, you've just got to get a certain amount of Dominion score. So you just got to push your Dominion out. That's one way of playing. But I'm going to go with the Throne of Ascension. The reason being is because this kind of gives me a convenient way to end the game when I've had enough of it. Because what I'll do is I'm going to put a little bit of a mix of thrones. So it's 9 players. I don't know. What do we want? Let's say like 18 points. So yeah. I don't know. I might have a couple of... I might have one really good throne. These have usually got like a pretender tier kind of thing in them. The level 1 throws are quite easy to take. The level 2 are a little bit more challenging. So what do we need? We want about half, don't we? Because so we want 9 actually. Let me think about this. Bum, 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 bum. Yeah, like 2. Oh, that's probably not enough. I'm being dumb. It's ascension point required, and then you want the number of thrones this way. Forgive me, folks. Okay, so 5 level 1 thrones, 5 level 2 thrones, 1 level 3. So basically, in order to win the game, you'd need... These give you 3 points, these give you 2, these give you 1. So it'll be like 3, 5... Yeah. I don't know, like you'd get this one and then 3 of these. 6, yeah. Something like that. Or you could get all 5 and then get 2 of these. So, yeah, I mean, however you want to play it. Level 1 thrones are probably a little bit easy. Let me get another level 2 throne in there instead. Maybe I'll make it 10. So that basically, at the end of the game, once you've got the decent magic, you know, the high level magic, it's quite easy to kind of go for a throne rush in single player. At least it usually is. All right, that's about it, guys. I think we're just going to generate the map now. And then I'm going to end the episode. God, that was an hour. So, yeah. I hope you're looking forward to this. This is probably going to be a relatively long series. I think a game like this will normally take me about 12 hours probably to finish. So, we're looking at half-an-hour episodes. We're probably about 24 episodes. It could be longer. Just depends on how fun it is. You know, how the AI plays, how I play, how much talking that I do. You know that I like talking. So as you can see, the game's just like generating a random map. Now, unless there's a small chance that I look at the map and go, I don't like that. But for the most part, it should be okay. You'll see why multiplayer, you know, people who are keen on multiplayer don't really use the map generator. It makes starts that are very asymmetric, and I like that, but you have to be playing with people who are willing to do it. So here we go. I'm just going to have a quick look at the map. Oh, look at this. Okay, this is an example. Can we actually get across here? No. Yeah, I might re-roll this map. And the reason being is because I don't have access to water magic early on. I don't think... No, Lanka don't have any water. So this is going to be tough. I mean, we can do it. Tell you what, though, right? This actually might be a really, really interesting game because... Let's have a look. We've got... This is the you know, the continent that we're on here. Now, and then we've got another continent. This is actually really cool. Look, we've got all these caves in the top as well. It actually rolled a lot of caves compared to how it normally does. as Lanka, we want lots of population, so this is cool. We've got loads of these farms. These usually have high pop, usually. That means that we can do lots of blood hunting. Hey, why not? Let's try it. Let's see how this works. It'll be a bit of a north versus south thing, I think. I'm not sure who, depending on who we're going to start next to. Chances are what we're going to do is we're going to find our neighbours, build ourselves up, conquer a neighbour quite quick, and then build up a bit of an economy, build up a blood economy, start summoning demons, and then we're going to cross the sea, and we're going to need some water stuff. So, yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting. I've got to hope, basically, that we come across somebody who's got water. I'm going to go for this. Let's try it. Let's see how it goes, guys. And we'll. I think it might make an interesting game because we're going to have to find some way of getting across the sea. Now, yeah, let's do it. All right, folks. I hope you are enjoying the series so far. I know it's a little bit long-winded and laborious. I'm aiming this series really at people who might be on the fence about Dominions. You know, whether it's something they'd like to play. And I know a whole lot of people don't like multiplayer. They're not interested in multiplayer at all. And I really don't like it when I hear people say that, you know, there's two things that people say about Dominions which I think are untrue. One is that Dominions is not very good in single player. That is not true. Two, that the AI is bad. I don't think that's true either. I think the AI is actually good. It's just not as good as players. It's not perfect. There are better game AIs, but I mean, how do you make a game AI that plays something like this? Seriously. Anyway, I'll catch you in the next episode, guys. Take care.